Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the sprint cycle. So, um, okay, sprint cycle and Scrum and Agile. So, the traditional way that people had been developing application is called the waterfall approach. So, let's say you're the product owner, which means you're the person with the idea. So, you come and you want to build something, okay? So, the old way, this is the ineffective way, is for you to write down everything that you want on a piece of paper and you like write specs, that's what is called specifications, and you develop this comprehensive report. It could be 100 pages or 200 pages, and you hand it off to the developer, and it's all text, right? It just talks about, oh, you know, when you do this you should do this. It's very complicated, and you hand it off to the developer works on it and totally misinterprets what you said, or actually maybe it's not their fault, maybe you wrote down something that was very confusing, so they work on it and they spend months and months and months, and then they finally build something and they come talk to you and you look at it and you're like, what the, this is not what I was looking for. And then you go back and forth, you make changes, and it takes another few months, and it's just a nightmare, right? That's why more than half of the big IT projects never get completed, because they follow this waterfall approach. Very, very bad. And then you don't get to talk with the developer, because you're thinking as soon as you hand off that 500-page report, the developer knows exactly how to build it, right? Wrong. It doesn't work that way. It's very, very ineffective. Okay. Alright, and most of the time, people that write those specs don't really understand how engineering works. So maybe there's one way to do it that would save a lot of time in development that the business owner is just not aware of. So, or maybe there's one feature that the business owner thinks, oh yeah, that should be a piece of cake, and that's the feature that ends up taking 9 months. And if the business owner knew that, maybe they wouldn't have added that feature. Okay? Alright, so that's the waterfall approach. Having those big fat documentation, and amazingly a lot of people still do this because they don't know any better. I used to do that because I didn't know about Agile or about Scrum. Okay, so here's a new way. If you had to write down all those things on a piece of paper, you're doing something wrong. Okay, you're totally wrong. So what you do instead is you have to create wireframes using tools like Balsamiq, draw it out, and everything should be self-explanatory, because we've used a lot of websites. If we look at the pictures, we know exactly how it should work, right? So the first step is you create wireframes, and then you convert it to HTML and CSS and JavaScript, because sometimes when you put things into HTML and CSS, it looks completely different. Okay, so you flesh out the ideas in wireframes, put it in HTML and CSS, and the thing is, when you do a sprint cycle or agile, you don't try to develop the full product right out. You develop it in increments, and the idea is you ship it. You ship the product, every sprint cycle. And one sprint cycle could be 1 week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks. We like to do 1 week because that keeps it short. And what you decide to do is, after you do the wireframe and the mockup for version 1, not version 10, for version 1, then we start building it, we launch it, test it, and then we then figure out, okay, what do we want for version 2? That's the next sprint cycle. So you add it, and then you just keep adding things in each sprint cycle. Okay. So in the sprint cycle, you break down the list of things that you need to be done, and then the good format is, as a user, this is what I want to be able to do. As an admin, this is what I want to be able to do, right? So you write a story and you assign story points, which is basically the developer's estimation on how long it would take. And for us, we just use 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. 1 is something that's really easy to fix, under like an hour. 2 means like 2-3 hours. 4 means half a day. 8 means full day. 16 means several days. 32 means like a whole week. Okay, and the velocity is how many story points get done in each sprint cycle. And I usually tell people to expect about 20 to 25 story points per person per week working on the project, because again, the story points should include the time to code, research, plan, communicate, and test, not just code. A lot of developers think, hey, that's a 2-minute fix coding wise, but it takes a lot. They should research, plan, commit, test. They should do all that, right? So and then also programmers are not robots, so that's why they don't do 40 story points a week. 20